Welcome to the last segment of the day. I'm Naomi, and this is IGN Live at E3, streaming at you from e3.ign.com, youtube.com/E3, and IGN's Xbox Live app. Right now, we're going to head back to crazy awesome universe of the Elder Scrolls and check out its brand new MMO.
What's up, guys? I'm Colin Moriarty. I'm editor of IGN PlayStation. I'm here with ZeniMax Online's Paul Sage, and we're here to talk about the Elder Scrolls Online, so thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So let's just get right into it. What is this game that you guys are working on right now?
So this is Elder Scrolls, absolutely, and this is the first time you've been able to play an Elder Scrolls in 20 years with your friends. So, you know, that was the thing that really we wanted to do, was make it the most, I would say it's the most accessible online game that's going to be out there. You're going to be able to play with your friends. You know, it's great for the social interactions that we're trying to set up. That's the big thing, is really getting your friends in, meeting new people. You know, it's a lot of fun.
Cool. Yeah, as you said, this isn't only, you know, obviously this is the first MMO in the series, but it's also the first time someone can play with someone else. So was that a hard challenge to meet? I mean, the series is known for its single-player pedigree.
So it's a challenge that we kind of relish, right? So you know, there are things that you're going to see from Elder Scrolls games, like world interactivity, that you've come to expect, and you know, we'll have classes in the game, but those classes, the great thing about them is it kind of makes each person special. So it allows players to kind of stand out from other players, and there's so much customization as you go through the classes. It's like, okay, great, I'm not just this type of class, I'm actually something a little different and special.
Okay, so let's get down to the nitty-gritty. Obviously, the Elder Scrolls, there's several games, they all kind of take place in different parts of this world, the same world. So where does the MMO take place?
So each Elder Scrolls game has taken place inside Tamriel, but this is, I think, the first time where we've really spanned all, you know, just kind of the breadth of Tamriel. So there are places that you haven't seen in 15 years, like, let's say, Daggerfall or Wayrest. And then there are places, you know, that you've been to more recently, like Skyrim or even Morrowind. And in the middle of the continent of Tamriel is Cyrodiil, or where Oblivion took place. And so you're going to get to visit all of these locations, and some that, you know, have never been in an Elder Scrolls game before.
And what's the breadth of the game in terms of, I mean, all these territories? I mean, what kind of landmass are we talking about? How are we getting from to and fro? How big really is it?
It's pretty big. It's pretty huge. So as a player, you get to associate yourself with a faction. And so we have 3 factions in the game. So if you want to choose to play, say, I want to play a Dark Elf, or I want to play a Nord, or I want to play an Argonian, you'll be a member of the Ebonheart Pact. And these factions, the way they work is they're vying for control of the Imperial City in Cyrodiil, right? So the factions are trying to do one thing, which is they're actually trying to crown the Emperor for their faction. So players actually get to choose a faction. So you get to choose kind of where you want to play in the world.
Okay, so the character creation, obviously you talked about the 3 factions. Walk me through when you're creating a character. What are you seeing? What kind of classes do you get to choose from? What kind of stats do you get to manipulate? All that kind of stuff.
So in Elder Scrolls, you know, you have your health, your magic, and your stamina, and absolutely we have that. But the other thing that's really exciting is, you know, when we took on the online game, we said, well, how can we make this really feel special? And so the characters, as they progress in their classes, they'll have different abilities. So the abilities, they'll actually gain expertise with these abilities, and they'll be able to grow them over time. So we have an action bar that's at the bottom of the screen, and what that does is that allows you to slot in abilities for kind of how you want to approach situations in combat. And these abilities, as I said, they'll grow if you've got them, you know, kind of slotted, and that gives a player the way to customize their character. Even, you know, it's just a great feeling of depth to get there. But each character class can use any weapon in the game. So if you want to be, for instance, a mage who has a bow, go ahead. You can be a mage who uses a bow.
Okay, awesome. And characters created. I'm in the game. What's the quest structure like? What are we doing? You know, right off the bat, we have. There's obviously gonna be a main story and then many side quests, fetch quests, and things of this nature.
Absolutely, there is a main story. One of the things we concentrated on with our questing structure was, how do we get that kind of flowing nature, that organic nature of I just get to go out and explore. And so we have a compass in the game, and the compass is great because the compass points out opportunities for you. So for instance, I may be going to do one quest, and because I'm kind of an easily distracted guy, I see something else pop up. It's a dungeon, it's a moonstone or something, and then I'm off and running. I'm over in that area, you know, and I can go back and complete that quest. It's a really organic quest system, which means that you don't get a quest, you know, just strictly from one NPC in a certain area, or say 5 NPCs in a certain area, and then have to go back and forth to that area. It's more organic. You get to explore, and as you explore, you find, you know, quest lines and lots of other things to do out in the world.
Okay. And like, let's jump back. I mean, when you guys were charged with making this game, when the development began, I think a lot of people would want to know, you know, is Bethesda's own internal studio, is Todd Howard, are any of these guys involved in kind of helping you learn the lore and you know, kind of help you craft the game?
Absolutely. So we work with them quite a bit on the lore. You know, I can tell you that one of the things that I looked forward to the most when I started at ZeniMax Online was the fact that I got to work on Elder Scrolls, because I was such a fan, and you know, a lot of our developers are like that. And so we work with Bethesda. We'll send them, you know, what we call a lore dump every week and say, hey guys, what do you think of this? Or what do you think of this? And they'll be like, and I can't even begin to tell you how great they've been with it. They'll say like, oh yeah, absolutely, you can do that. And it's been actually a really great relationship.
Awesome. And within the timeline, I mean, does this fit somewhere very specifically in between certain games, or, you know, we talk about the different territories, but where does this fit overall?
This is 1,000 years before the events took place in Skyrim, and so it's roughly 800 before what happened in Oblivion. So this is quite a ways back, which is it was a period of unrest, and so for those people who know the lore really well, it was a great time because there wasn't an emperor at that time, you know, and so people are vying for that emperorship, like I mentioned. So this is an especially, I would say, opportune time for us to set our game in.
Okay. And in terms of MMOs, I mean, there are, you know, several on the market. You know, some do better than others. What about this MMO other than the Elder Scrolls name? What is going to draw the MMO player in, say, away from World of Warcraft or even Star Wars or something like that?
You know, I mean, there's lots of great games out there, but for us, I mean, I think that, you know, I talked about that organic quest style and the way that you explore the world. The level of interactivity in the world is one of those things. But the other thing is the combat that we have in the game. So the combat system, it uses things that you've played or you've done in other Elder Scrolls games. For instance, you can block, you can crouch, you can sprint, and those things seem really simple. But when you start pairing up like the fact that I can block at any time, the fact that I can hold down a button and charge up an attack, and then I can just move out of the way. And so we've removed some of the interface elements to make it so that the player really sees the combat. So, you know, I think the combat is one of those things, how active and interactive it is, that's really stood out.
Okay. And Elder Scrolls Online obviously is still in development, but do we have a time frame on when we can expect it? It'll obviously come only to PC, I assume?
Actually, it comes to PC and Mac. You can play on a machine that's up to 5 years old. I mean, you know, we want to make sure everybody can play. So it'll be out in 2013.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me. And for the last time today, I'm going to kick it back to Naomi.
Awesome. And that's another day in the can for IGN Live at E3. However, we're far from done because tomorrow will be a brand new day. On the schedule are games like Metro Last Light, Epic Mickey 2, and Aliens Colonial Marines. You can check the full schedule on both e3.ign.com or youtube.com/E3. Just be aware that the schedule is always changing. Thanks for being an awesome audience, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.